Dr. Maya Rodriguez hadn't slept in 36 hours. The global hurricane crisis kept every meteorological station on high alert, and the Socorro Radio Observatory was no exception. They'd been tracking unprecedented electromagnetic disturbances in the upper atmosphere when everything changed. The first signal broke through at 3:47 a.m. Mountain Time. Dr. Rodriguez, her assistant's voice cracked with excitement. "You need to see this." Maya rushed to the monitoring station, her coffee forgotten. The wavelength pattern on the screen defied everything she knew about natural phenomena. It was structured, deliberate, and definitely not from Earth. "Run it through the decoder," she ordered, her hands trembling as she adjusted her glasses. The computer hummed, processing the alien mathematics that somehow felt familiar yet impossibly advanced. The signal repeated every 12 seconds, each burst carrying terabytes of data. As their systems began translating the information, Maya's excitement turned to horror. The message contained detailed casualty reports from thousands of worlds, each documenting systematic extinction events. "Call the director," she whispered. "Now." Within hours, the signal was being received globally. Television broadcasts interrupted, phone communications disrupted, even digital billboards flickered with fragments of the alien message. The world's governments scrambled to maintain order as the truth became impossible to contain. Humanity was not alone, and the galaxy was at war. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Maya found herself presenting to a room full of grim-faced world leaders when it happened. The air in the center of the chamber shimmered, and 3 holographic figures materialized, the first representatives of the Galactic Council. They were beautiful and terrifying in their alienness. One appeared to be made of floating water droplets, another seemed to shift between gaseous and solid states, and the third was a being of pure light, held together by a containment field. "People of Earth," the liquid being's words translated directly into their minds. "We apologize for the abrupt nature of our contact, but we face extinction." The light being projected images into the air, crystal entities advancing through energy shields like they weren't there, methodically harvesting entire cities. The Ravagers, they were called. Silicon-based life forms that had evolved beyond the need for biological constraints. "Our weapons are useless," the gaseous being explained. "Energy-based technology simply passes through their crystalline matrices. We've lost thousands of worlds." "Why come to us?" the UN Secretary General asked. "We're centuries behind your technology." The liquid being rippled in what might have been amusement. "Because you're something unique in the galaxy. Your world was quarantined long ago, marked as too dangerous to approach. You are what we call Deathworlders." Maya watched the confusion spread through the chamber. The light being projected new images. Earth compared to other inhabited worlds. What humans considered normal was extraordinary by galactic standards. Earth's gravity was crushing, its atmospheric pressure tremendous, its temperature variations lethal, its biodiversity a nightmare of evolutionary arms races. Your bodies evolved to survive conditions that would kill most species instantly, the gaseous being explained. You can withstand radiation, pressure, and trauma that our best warriors cannot. You are natural warriors, forged by a world that never stopped trying to kill you. The implications stunned the room into silence. Humanity hadn't been overlooked by the galaxy. They'd been cordoned off as too dangerous to contact. "We need warriors," the liquid being continued. "Warriors who can fight in conditions that would kill our soldiers. Warriors who understand physical combat in ways our civilizations have forgotten. We need humans." The chamber erupted in discussion, but Maya's attention was drawn to the casualty reports still streaming across her tablet. Each number represented an entire species, gone forever. The Ravagers weren't just winning. They were systematically erasing all other forms of life. The Secretary General raised his hand, silencing the chamber. "You're asking us to fight your war." "No," the light being pulsed. "We're asking you to fight for the survival of all life in the galaxy. The Ravagers cannot be negotiated with or deterred. They see biological life as an inefficiency to be corrected. Earth is next on their list, now that they know of your existence. As if to punctuate the point, new images appeared. A Ravager fleet, already moving toward Earth's sector of space. Maya stood up, her voice carrying across the chamber. How long do we have? The 3 alien representatives shared what might have been a look. 3 of your months. Will you help us? The Secretary General looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each world leader. One by one, they nodded. We'll need to know everything about these Ravagers, he said. And you'll need to know everything about how humans fight. For the first time, the alien representatives showed something like hope. They didn't yet understand that they had just recruited the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy, warriors who had evolved on a world that made combat a daily survival requirement. The war for galactic survival was about to change dramatically. Lieutenant James Chen was drinking his 3rd cup of coffee when the alien medical team had their collective nervous breakdown. He watched in confusion as their environmental suits flickered with warning lights and their translator devices erupted in a cacophony of alarmed beeping. You're consuming that voluntarily. The chief medical officer, a being that looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a cloud of fireflies, drifted backward in apparent horror. Yeah. James took another sip. It's just coffee. The alien scientists huddled together, their crystalline tablets chirping as they compared readings. One of them, braver than the rest, approached James with what appeared to be a scanning device. Lieutenant, you are willingly ingesting a neurotoxic stimulant that would kill most sentient species, and based on your biological readings, this isn't the first time today. James shrugged. Humans drink coffee all the time. Some of us can't function without it. The revelation about coffee was just the beginning. As the Galactic Council's archaeological team shared their findings with Earth's military leadership, humanity began to understand just how different they were from the galactic norm. The warning beacons around Earth's solar system dated back over 50,000 years. Ancient spacefaring civilizations had taken one look at Earth and its inhabitants and decided to quarantine the entire system. The beacons carried clear messages: extreme hazard, Class 12 Death World. Indigenous species demonstrates unprecedented aggressive adaptation and survival capabilities. Contact prohibited. But it was the medical examinations that truly highlighted humanity's unique nature. The alien doctors had to recalibrate their equipment multiple times, convinced it was malfunctioning. Your bone density, one doctor explained, their bioluminescent tendrils flickering with excitement, is comparable to our structural steel. Your muscular system would qualify as industrial-grade servomotors by our standards. And your regenerative capabilities, we've seen you heal from injuries that would be fatal to most species. The briefing room was filled with military officers and scientists from both Earth and the Council. Holographic displays showed comparative anatomical studies, human bodies compared to other sentient species. What humans considered normal was extraordinary by galactic standards. Your digestive system can process substances that would be classified as biological weapons on most worlds, another alien scientist added. Your ability to neutralize toxins and adapt to environmental poisons is unprecedented. And your endurance, you can literally chase prey until it dies of exhaustion. Major Sarah Chen, James's older sister and newly appointed to the Joint Military Coordination Team, raised her hand. What about our combat capabilities? How do we compare to the Ravagers? The room darkened as new holographic images appeared, crystal entities moving with terrible purpose through the ruins of alien cities. The Ravagers evolved beyond biological constraints, the chief medical officer explained. They don't feel pain, don't tire, and our energy weapons pass right through them. But they've never encountered beings like you. Like us how? Sarah pressed. Your species evolved as pursuit predators on a high-gravity death world. Your bodies produce combat-enhancing chemicals on demand. Your neural architecture allows you to process multiple threat scenarios simultaneously while maintaining situational awareness. You can survive in environments that would kill most species instantly. To demonstrate, the alien showed comparative footage. A standard Council warrior could operate in 1.2 times Earth's gravity for approximately 1 hour. Humans live their entire lives at that pressure and could function at up to 4G with proper training. Council species considered 20 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius the safe temperature range. Humans could survive from minus 50 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius with minimal protection. The implications were staggering. While the Council's civilizations had evolved toward technological solutions, humanity had been forced to become physically formidable just to survive their homeworld. There's more, the chief medical officer added. Your species possesses something we've never seen: controlled aggression combined with strategic thinking. Most predator species we've encountered are either purely instinctual or purely logical. You can be both, switching between states as needed. James finished his coffee, crushing the metal cup slightly in his grip as he considered the implications. So you're saying we're basically superheroes by galactic standards? The alien scientists flickered nervously. We're saying you're our last hope. The Ravagers are coming, and they've never encountered a species that could match them in physical combat. Your bodies, evolved over millions of years on a death world, might be the key to survival. Sarah stood up, her voice carrying the weight of command. Then we better start figuring out how to help our troops work together. Because if Earth is considered a death world, we need to show these Ravagers why we're called Deathworlders. The alien representatives bobbed in agreement, even as they maintained a safe distance from the humans. They had just recruited the galaxy's most dangerous soldiers. They just hoped they could control what they had unleashed. Colonel Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Galactic Council's training facility, watching her first human-alien joint exercise unfold. Below, members of Earth's newly formed Terran Special Operations Group attempted to navigate an obstacle course alongside their alien counterparts. The results were problematic. Sergeant Miller, she called through the comm system. The Title Ambassador's exoskeleton is not a load-bearing structure. Too late. The well-meaning sergeant, seeing his alien teammate stumble, had instinctively reached out to catch them. The resulting crack of the ambassador's crystalline outer shell echoed through the chamber. Medical drones rushed in as Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, adding another incident to her growing list. That's the third diplomatic incident this week, her alien advisor, a being composed of shifting plasma contained within an energy field, noted. Though I must admit, your soldiers' protective instincts are admirable, if occasionally lethal to their allies. The first month of training had been a steep learning curve for everyone involved. Human soldiers had to relearn basic physical interaction. Their natural strength could accidentally crush most alien species. Meanwhile, the Council's engineers worked overtime to modify their equipment to withstand human handling. Colonel Chen, a voice called from the engineering bay. You need to see this. Sarah found a team of alien technicians clustered around a weapons testing area. Specialist Rodriguez stood sheepishly next to a pile of broken energy rifles. What happened? We were testing the modified plasma rifles, Rodriguez explained. The recoil dampeners couldn't handle our muscle strength. We broke them. All of them. The alien engineers were already adapting, their multiple appendages flying over holographic interfaces as they redesigned the weapons. They had learned early on that equipment designed for other species simply couldn't withstand human usage. But it wasn't all disasters. In the medical bay, human medics were teaching alien doctors about battlefield trauma care, something most Council species had forgotten with their advanced healing technology. The aliens were particularly fascinated by the human concept of walking off injuries that would incapacitate other species. Your biology is remarkable, the chief medical officer had said, watching a soldier continue training with what scans showed was a hairline fracture. You can function at 60% capacity with injuries that would kill most species. The breakthrough came during an unexpected crisis. A reactor breach in one of the training facility's power cores threatened to flood several decks with radiation. The alien crew evacuated, but Sarah's team rushed in. Humans, the facility AI blared. The radiation levels are lethal. Lethal for who? Sergeant Santos shouted back, leading her team into the reactor chamber. They worked through the radiation warning zones, manually stabilizing the reactor while the aliens watched in horror through the monitoring systems. When the crisis was over, the human team emerged. They were sick, yes. They spent 3 days in medical treatment for radiation exposure, but they had saved the facility and its crew. The incident changed everything. The aliens began to see human durability not as a threat, but as protection. Training adapted to leverage human strengths while accounting for alien fragility. Sarah watched new exercises unfold, humans acting as shock troops and physical barriers, while their alien teammates provided technical expertise and energy-based support. The Council's advanced technology combined with human physical capabilities created something entirely new. They're learning, her plasma advisor noted, watching a human soldier carefully help a multi-limbed alien engineer into position. Both sides. In the combat simulator, human reflexes proved invaluable against Ravager attack patterns. While Council species relied on energy shields, humans could physically dodge energy beams while returning fire. Their ability to think tactically under stress amazed their alien counterparts. How do you maintain strategic thought while producing combat hormones? An alien psychologist had asked after watching a training session. That's just being human, Sarah had replied. We evolved making tools and planning hunts while fighting for survival. It's in our DNA. As the first month ended, Sarah received word that the Ravagers had destroyed another Council world. The aliens' fear was palpable, but now it was tinged with hope. They had seen humans in action, seen what Earth's warriors could do. Colonel, her advisor's plasma form flickered with urgency. We've received reports. The Ravagers are advancing toward the Centauri colony. Your battalion is needed. Sarah nodded, already reaching for her combat gear. Send the alert. All human personnel, combat stations. This isn't a drill anymore. Throughout the facility, soldiers rushed to their positions. They had trained for this, prepared for real combat against an enemy that had never faced anything like them. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth had been classified as a death world, and why its inhabitants might be the key to survival. The Centauri colony was burning. Crystal shards from fallen Ravager troops littered the ground like deadly mirrors, reflecting the chaos above. Colonel Chen watched from her command post as another energy blast passed harmlessly through a Ravager formation. Council weapons ineffective, she reported, her voice steady despite the destruction around her. Switching to human ordnance. All units, Combat Protocol Delta. The change was immediate. The 1st Human Battalion had spent weeks modifying Earth weapons for space combat. Now, kinetic weapons roared to life, sending specially designed rounds into the crystalline enemies. The Ravagers, used to energy weapons passing through their matrices, had never experienced physical ammunition. The results were devastating. Ma'am. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. They're adapting. Some kind of crystalline reinforcement. Sarah watched through her tactical display as the Ravagers began to evolve their structure, their crystalline bodies becoming denser. But humanity had spent millions of years adapting to threats, and they weren't about to stop now. Switch to modified mining charges, she ordered. Let's see how they handle shaped explosives. Sergeant Maria Santos led her team through the colony's underground maintenance tunnels. The Ravagers had never encountered a species that would willingly enter such confined spaces during combat. Their tactical algorithms couldn't process the concept of soldiers choosing to restrict their own movement. Contact, Santos called out. The tunnel ahead was blocked by collapsed debris, and Ravager forces were advancing from behind. We're cut off. The alien members of her team began calculating retreat scenarios, but Santos had other ideas. She approached the collapsed section, her powered armor sensors analyzing the rock composition. Everyone back, she ordered, disengaging her armor's safety protocols. What happened next would become legendary in Council military records. Santos burst through the solid rock wall with her armored hands, creating a new tunnel that flanked the Ravager position. The alien troops watching through surveillance feeds were stunned. No other species could have survived such physical trauma, let alone continued fighting. Above ground, the battle intensified. Human troops demonstrated combat capabilities that defied the Ravagers' analytical predictions. Soldiers dodged energy beams with reaction times that seemed impossible, while others absorbed hits that would have vaporized any other species. They just don't stay down. One alien commander observed in awe, watching the human surgeon continue fighting despite injuries that their medical systems classified as catastrophic. The turning point came when a Ravager crystal ship crashed into the colony's main plaza. The crystalline beings emerged, expecting to find easy targets. Instead, they met Corporal James Chen and his close combat team. "Let's show them why humans used to hunt with rocks," James grinned, leading his team into what would become known as the Crystal Garden Battle. The Ravagers discovered that their crystalline bodies, while immune to energy weapons, were vulnerable to something they had never encountered in combat: pure kinetic trauma delivered by beings evolved to take down prey with physical force. Sarah coordinated the final push from her command center, now understanding why the Council had been so desperate for human help. The Ravagers' perfect formations and logical tactics fell apart against human unpredictability and sheer physical resilience. "All units, press the advantage," she ordered. "They've never fought anything like us. They don't know how to handle warriors who actually enjoy the fight." The battle for Centauri Colony lasted 14 hours. When it was over, the ground was littered with crystalline shards from destroyed Ravager troops. Human casualties were high. Nearly 30% of the battalion was injured. But to the Council's amazement, most of the wounded insisted on returning to duty despite injuries that their medical databases classified as unsurvivable. How? The Council's Supreme Commander asked during the post-battle briefing. "How do you continue fighting with such damage?" Sarah looked at the casualty reports, remembering Earth's long history of warfare. "Because we've spent our entire evolutionary history surviving things that should have killed us. There's an old human saying, 'What doesn't kill us makes us stronger.'" The implications of the victory rippled through the galaxy. The Ravagers, for the first time in their campaign of extinction, had been decisively defeated. But more importantly, they had encountered something their logical minds couldn't process: beings who grew stronger from combat, who adapted faster than they could, and who seemed to possess no upper limit to their combat endurance. The war was far from over, but the first battle had proven something vital. Humanity wasn't just capable of fighting the Ravagers. They were capable of winning. The Galactic Council's war room buzzed with activity as reports from across the galaxy streamed in. Holographic displays showed human forces revolutionizing combat doctrine on every front. The Ravagers, for the first time in their existence, were being forced to adapt. Staff Sergeant David O'Neill stood in the center of the room, his battle-scarred armor still smoking from his latest engagement. The Council members watched in fascination as medical drones cataloged his injuries: 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and enough tissue damage to kill most species. "These new crystal shard weapons," he reported, casually ignoring the medical attention. "They're learning. Trying to copy our physical combat methods." The tactical displays confirmed his assessment. The Ravagers, faced with unprecedented defeats, had begun evolving new weapons. Their crystalline bodies now generated razor-sharp projections, attempting to match humanity's capability for physical violence. "They're adapting faster than predicted," one Council strategist noted, their ethereal form flickering with concern. "Our models suggest." O'Neill interrupted by slamming his broken arm against the tactical table, causing several alien observers to recoil in shock. "Models don't win wars. Watch this." He pulled up footage from his helmet cam of his last engagement. The Ravagers had surrounded his position with their new crystal blade formations. What happened next caused several Council members to emit distress signals. O'Neill had charged directly into the crystal formation, his reinforced skull impacting a Ravager commander. The footage showed the aliens' crystalline structure shattering, human bone proving harder than their enhanced crystal matrix. Sometimes, he grinned, blood still trickling from a cut above his eye. You have to show them why Earth predators are the apex of evolution. The video spread across council networks, becoming a symbol of humanity's impact on the war. But the Ravagers weren't finished adapting. New reports showed them developing specialized units specifically designed to counter human tactics. Colonel Chen, now coordinating multiple human battalions, called an emergency strategy session. They're learning from each engagement, she explained, showing footage of Ravager units using modified versions of human combat techniques. But they're missing something fundamental. Dr. Rodriguez, who had transitioned from radio astronomy to xenological combat analysis, stepped forward. They're copying our methods without understanding our nature. Look at their new formations. The tactical display showed Ravager units attempting to mimic human squad tactics, but their movements were mechanical, predictable. They had copied the form but missed the essence. They don't understand innovation, Rodriguez continued. They can adapt their bodies, copy our weapons, but they can't replicate human creativity. They don't know how to improvise. This revelation led to a new phase in the war. Human forces began deploying increasingly unpredictable tactics. Soldiers started using their environment in ways the Ravagers couldn't anticipate, turning debris into weapons, using terrain features for ambushes, even incorporating local planetary conditions into their strategy. The breaking point came during the Battle of Proxima's Forge. A human platoon, cut off from support and running low on ammunition, demonstrated why Earth's evolutionary crucible had produced the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, cornered by Ravager Crystal Blade units, remembered her childhood rock-climbing experiences. She led her team up a sheer cliff face that the Ravagers had designated as impassable terrain, flanking their position and using improvised weapons crafted from local minerals. The difference, she would later explain to stunned council tacticians, is that we don't just adapt our bodies. We adapt our minds, our tools, our entire approach to survival. Every human is an innovation engine. The Ravagers, confronted with an enemy that evolved tactics faster than they could evolve countermeasures, began showing signs of strategic uncertainty. Their perfect formations developed gaps. Their logical predictions failed to account for human intuition and willingness to attempt statistically impossible maneuvers. But their response to these setbacks proved why the war was far from over. The Ravager High Command, analyzing their defeats, made a decision that would change the conflict's nature. They designated Earth itself as their primary target. They've recognized us as their first true threat, Chen announced to the assembled human and alien commanders. They're coming for Earth now, not just to defeat us, but to understand how we think, how we fight. The council representatives shifted nervously. Can your world defend against their full might? Chen's smile was fierce. They're about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world. We've spent our entire history preparing for this kind of fight. They want to understand humanity. Let them come to the planet that forged us. The war was entering its most crucial phase, and humanity was about to show the galaxy why evolution on a death world produced warriors unlike any other in existence. Deep within the Pentagon's newly established Sinological Warfare Division, Dr. Maya Rodriguez stared at combat footage until her eyes burned. Something about the Ravager movements had been nagging at her consciousness for weeks. It wasn't until she saw footage of them responding to a particularly chaotic human assault that it clicked. They're not thinking, she whispered, frantically pulling up more tactical data. They're calculating. The revelation sparked a furious 48 hours of analysis. Maya pulled in military historians, combat veterans, and even game theorists. As the patterns emerged, she requested an emergency meeting with the Joint Command. Colonel Chen arrived to find the briefing room walls covered in holographic displays showing Ravager combat formations throughout the war's history. Maya stood in the center, her exhaustion evident, but her eyes bright with discovery. "They're running simulations," Maya explained. "Every combat maneuver, every tactical response, it's all based on computational models. Look at their response times." The displays showed Ravager units responding to various combat scenarios. Their reactions were perfect, too perfect. They moved with mechanical precision, each unit positioning itself according to optimal mathematical models. "That's why they're struggling against us," Maya continued. "Their entire strategic database is built on energy weapon conflicts. They've never needed to evolve beyond pure logical response patterns because no species has ever forced them to think differently." General Williams, recently promoted to oversee Earth's global defense, leaned forward. "You're saying they're predictable." "I'm saying they're predictable if you understand their logic," Maya corrected. "But there's more. Look at their adaptation rate since encountering humans." New displays showed the evolution of Ravager combat forms. The crystal blade units, the reinforced matrices, the attempted copying of human tactics all followed clear mathematical progression. "They're not innovating," Chen realized. "They're iterating through predetermined evolution paths." Exactly. Maya highlighted several recent battles. When humans do something unexpected, something their models can't predict, they default to pre-programmed responses while their systems update. There's a lag time between encountering new tactics and developing countermeasures. The implications were staggering. The Ravagers weren't just an enemy that could be outfought. They were an enemy that could be outthought. Their perfect logic was their greatest weakness against human unpredictability. But the breakthrough came with a warning. Maya's team had intercepted and decoded Ravager communications. The crystal beings had recognized the threat humanity posed, not just to their current campaign, but to their entire species' survival strategy. "They're coming for Earth," Maya explained, showing projections of Ravager fleet movements. "Not just as a military target. They see us as an evolutionary threat, a species that can out-adapt their adaptation protocols." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Ravagers had designated humanity as their primary target, committing massive resources to studying and countering human combat capabilities. "How long do we have?" Chen asked, already thinking through defense scenarios. 2 weeks, maybe less. Maya brought up stellar maps showing Ravager fleet positions. They're adapting faster than ever, developing new forms specifically designed to counter human biological advantages. But they're still thinking linearly, still following logical progression paths. General Williams stood, his expression grim but determined. "Then we need to think non-linearly. Dr. Rodriguez, I want you working with our tactical teams. If the Ravagers run on combat algorithms, we need to give them data they can't process." The next 48 hours saw the development of what would become known as the Chaos Protocol. Human military doctrine, evolved through thousands of years of warfare against other humans, had always incorporated elements that the Ravagers couldn't comprehend. Deliberate sacrificial plays, feigned retreats, psychological warfare. "We need to weaponize unpredictability," Chen explained to her battalion commanders. "Every engagement needs to include elements their algorithms can't anticipate. Make them try to process the irrational." The strategy would be tested sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected the first wave of the Ravager fleet entering the solar system. Earth's defenders had less than a week to prepare for the largest invasion in human history. "They're coming to learn how we think, how we fight," Maya told the assembled War Council. "Let's teach them why evolution produced something their perfect logic can't defeat." As humanity prepared for the coming battle, a new understanding emerged. The Ravagers' greatest strength, their perfect, logical adaptation, was about to encounter something their algorithms had never faced, a species that had evolved to be deliberately, tactically unpredictable. The war for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapon wouldn't be their technology or their physical capabilities, but their ability to defy logical prediction. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth's chaotic evolution had produced the ultimate warriors. The first wave of Ravager ships entered Earth's atmosphere at dawn. They expected to find a primitive defense system, relying on conventional weapons and predictable tactics. Instead, they encountered humanity unleashed. Navy SEAL teams, equipped with modified rebreathers and alien tech, struck from the depths of Earth's oceans. The Ravager's sensors, calibrated for vacuum and standard atmospheric operations, couldn't track human movement through water. Their tactical computers struggled to process the concept of biological beings willingly operating in crushing depths. Neptune Team. Breach confirmed. Commander Sarah Phillips reported from 300 meters below the Pacific. Her team had just destroyed a Ravager landing craft by exploiting a fundamental weakness. Their crystalline structures couldn't handle rapid pressure changes. In the Himalayas, Army Rangers demonstrated why terrain mastery was a uniquely human trait. The Ravagers had dismissed mountains as tactically insignificant, their algorithms unable to process the advantage of high-ground warfare perfected by millennia of human conflict. Captain Michael Chen led his team across seemingly impassable ridges, using climbing techniques passed down through generations of mountaineers. The Ravagers, attempting to follow, discovered that their crystalline forms were ill-suited for the complex three-dimensional movement that humans had mastered. They don't understand innovation, Chen reported, watching Ravager units struggle with the terrain. They can adapt their bodies, but they can't adapt their thinking. The turning point came with what would become known as the Terror Drop. Colonel Chen, coordinating global defense from the Combined Earth Council Command Center, authorized the most audacious operation in military history. 500 human shock troops, wearing only sealed environment suits, performed orbital insertions without drop pods. The Ravagers' combat algorithms crashed trying to process the sight of humans intentionally entering atmosphere at terminal velocity, using nothing but reinforced suits and calculated trajectory adjustments. Status report, Chen demanded as the first wave hit. Impact successful, came the response from Major Rodriguez, her voice tight with controlled adrenaline. Ravager formations disrupted. They literally couldn't believe we'd do this, ma'am. Their targeting systems weren't designed to track what they considered suicide tactics. The psychological impact was devastating. The Ravagers, encountering human combat doctrine for the first time on humanity's home turf, found their logical systems overwhelmed. Humans used weather as a weapon, turning storms and lightning into tactical advantages. They employed suicide feints that weren't actually suicide missions, counting on their superior durability to survive maneuvers that would kill any other species. In the Amazon, Brazilian special forces demonstrated why evolution in Earth's most competitive ecosystem produced unparalleled guerrilla warriors. They led Ravager units into terrain that overwhelmed their sensory systems, using the dense biodiversity to mask their movements. They can't process this much chaos, Dr. Maya Rodriguez explained, watching tactical displays from the command center. Earth's ecosystems evolved through competition. The Ravagers evolved through controlled adaptation. They've never encountered an environment with this much random variation. The battle for orbit proved equally revolutionary. Human pilots, trained in atmospheric combat, applied principles that the Ravagers' space warfare algorithms couldn't predict. They used gravity assists and atmospheric skimming maneuvers that no logical system would consider viable. Sir, a sensor operator reported, the Ravager fleet is showing signs of tactical confusion. Their formations are breaking down. General Williams nodded grimly. They're learning why Earth tactics evolved differently than anywhere else in the galaxy. Push the advantage. Authorized Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega was humanity's ultimate demonstration of controlled chaos. Every human unit began executing seemingly random tactical shifts, their movements following patterns based on Earth's most complex natural systems, weather formations, predator-prey cycles, even viral mutation rates. The Ravagers' combat algorithms, trying to process and counter these patterns, encountered a fundamental truth about Earth evolution. Chaos was a feature, not a bug. Human warfare had evolved through millennia of fighting other humans, producing doctrine that incorporated unpredictability as a core principle. Their command structure is fragmenting, Maya reported, watching the Ravager fleet's coordination break down. They're trying to adapt, but they can't handle this many simultaneous pattern variations. The battle reached its climax as human forces demonstrated another uniquely terrestrial capability: coordinated small unit tactics. While the Ravagers relied on central command and control, human squads operated with autonomous decision-making abilities, each unit adapting independently to local conditions. This is why we survive on a death world, Colonel Chen explained to the watching council representatives. We evolved to handle chaos, to thrive in it. The Ravagers evolved to impose order. They never stood a chance in our environment. As the day ended, the Ravager invasion force was in retreat, their perfect formation shattered by encounters with warfare they couldn't quantify. Humanity had proven something fundamental about evolution on a death world. It produced warriors who could turn chaos itself into a weapon. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The Ravager defeat at Earth marked more than just a military victory. It represented a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. In the aftermath of the battle, the crystalline beings experienced something unprecedented in their history: a cascading failure of their core logic systems. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood before the combined Earth Council Assembly, explaining the phenomenon. Their entire species operated on perfect logical progression. In countering humans, beings who could survive what their models deemed unsurvivable, who could succeed using tactics their algorithms classified as impossible, created a paradox they couldn't resolve. A holographic display showed Ravager ships retreating across the galaxy, their once perfect formations now erratic. Their command structure, based on pure logic and predictable adaptation, had encountered something their evolution had never prepared them for: the chaotic efficiency of Earth-evolved combat doctrine. But the war's end brought new challenges. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives debated humanity's role in the post-war galaxy. Some species viewed Earth's warriors with even greater fear than they had the Ravagers. They can survive radiation that kills us instantly, one delegate argued. They consider lethal toxins recreational beverages. Their bodies are composed of materials we use for structural support. How can we trust such beings? The answer came from an unexpected source. During the cleanup operations on a devastated council world, surveillance drones captured footage of human soldiers. Instead of securing military objectives, they were helping civilian survivors, using their incredible physical capabilities to clear rubble and rescue trapped aliens. Colonel Sarah Chen, now General Chen, presented this footage to the council. "You fear our capacity for violence," she acknowledged. "But you're missing something fundamental about human evolution. We didn't just evolve to fight. We evolved to protect." The footage continued, showing human medical teams working alongside alien doctors, teaching them battlefield trauma techniques that had evolved through Earth's long history of warfare. Human engineers collaborated with council scientists, combining Earth's practical innovation with advanced alien technology. "Your species is unique in the galaxy," the Council's supreme leader admitted. "You possess both the greatest capacity for violence we have ever encountered and an equally powerful drive to prevent it." The integration of humanity into galactic society led to revolutionary changes. Earth's classification shifted from Death World to Cradle of Guardians. The first Galactic Guard was established, combining human tactical innovation with Council technology. Human military advisors began training programs across the galaxy, teaching other species not just combat techniques, but the underlying principles of Earth warfare: adaptability, innovation, and the controlled application of chaos theory to military doctrine. Dr. Rodriguez, heading the new Xenological Understanding Initiative, made another crucial discovery. The Ravagers didn't just retreat, she explained to the Joint Command. They're evolving. Our encounter forced them to develop beyond pure logic. They're learning to innovate. This led to the most surprising development of all, the first diplomatic contact with the transformed Ravager civilization. Their crystalline representatives, displaying unprecedented behavioral flexibility, sought to understand the species that had defeated them. "You showed us something we had never encountered," the Ravager diplomat communicated. "The strength of imperfection, the advantage of uncertainty. We seek to learn." The galaxy entered a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding. Earth's warriors, once feared as Deathworld monsters, became respected as teachers and protectors. The human capacity for violence remained, but it was now recognized as just one aspect of their evolutionary heritage. A young, playful child, visiting the new Galactic Guard Academy on Earth, asked the human instructor why humans were so different from other species. The instructor's response would become famous throughout the galaxy. "We're strong because we had to be. We're adaptable because our world never stopped challenging us. We're protective because we learned that survival isn't just about being the strongest. It's about making sure others survive too." That's the true legacy of evolving on a death world. General Chen, watching new classes of mixed species recruits training together, reflected on how far they'd come. Humans were teaching alien species how to think creatively, while learning to control and direct their natural capabilities. The galaxy had gained not just warriors, but guardians. "We turned our greatest weakness into our greatest strength," she told the graduating class. "Our chaotic evolution, our violent history, our death world origins, they didn't just make us survivors. They made us protectors. And that's what the galaxy needed most." As humanity stepped into its new role as galactic guardians, they carried with them the lessons of their violent past and the hopes for a peaceful future. The death world had produced not just warriors, but teachers, protectors, and innovators. Proof that even the harshest crucible could forge something precious. The age of the Deathworlders had ended. The era of the Guardians had begun.